Today's daf, Be'ezras Hashem, is Masechta Zevachim Daf Samach 65, and we will begin from Daf Samach Dalet Amid Beis, okay? Daf Amid Beis, and by the Mishnah. Samach Dalet Amid Beis by the Mishnah. So once you see the picture, I'm not sure if you've seen the pictures. It's in the back of the Chumash. The back of the Chumash is that I think Art Scroll has. They're the pictures I took from Ois V'Hadar. Basically, one of the Chumash it describes if someone donates a bird as a carbon oila. Okay, you donate a bird as a carbon oila. So what the kohen would do is we saw already yesterday, he would lotch the head off, through what was called malika, right? Let's see. I showed you pictures of it yesterday with the finger, um, with the finger in the back of the head. I think we saw a picture of it yesterday, like that. It was something. He holds the bird, and then you stick your nail into the back of the neck. Okay, so we saw that. So comes along. Hi, Lewis. We just began. So the Kohen would go up to the ramp, and he would just you see there's like a side ramp on the mizbeach. So instead of going up the major ramp, you made a right turn, and you got to that corner, the eastern corner, and you would do the malika, and then you would push the blood up against the wall of the mizbeach. Then, following that, after you severed the head, you would go up and you would go around the soivev just with the head. You leave the body of the bird there, and you just salt it and throw it onto the main fire. Then you would come back around and you pull. The Torah tells you got to pull out some of the insides of that bird. Hashem doesn't want the insides of the bird on his mizbeach because the bird eats from gzela. So you have to pull out the gizzard and the crop of the bird, and then the Torah tells you also to pull that out and then split the bird in half. Okay, you make a hole, you split it you split the back of the bird. I think we have a picture of it over here. And you split it a little bit, and then you pull out the insides, then you split the back, and then you throw the rest on the mizbeach. Okay? So let's read it inside. Oilas ha'oif, says the Mishnah, Ketzad Nasas. How was the performing of a oilas ha'oif, a bird? Ola Kebes, he started going up the ramp. Ufana l'soivev, made a short right turn onto a little walkway. Boloi lekeren dramis mizrachis, he came to the southeast corner. And that's the only place where you can do an oilas knife. Where we learned yesterday by chatas oif, you could do malika on any part of the mizbeach. By the oilas oif, it had to specifically be southeast. And the reason for that is because we're going to be throwing stuff away from the bird, and because of that, therefore, we wanted the bird to be very close to the side of the ramp, where that was the place where you dump the insides. Anyway, Hoya Moilikas Roisha, right there on that east side, he would do the Malika. Memul Arpa, against the Memul Arpa, opposite its back of its neck. So let's see if I can give you a picture. Uh, here we go. Here we go. Let's make it big. So Arpa is the back of the neck. So therefore, you push your nail into the back of the net, and basically you're cutting both the windpipe and the food pipe. Okay, the windpipe and the food pipe, but you don't really sever the head. You just, cut both of them, both simonim. Umavdil, and then you try to separate the head a little bit. Umitzes damai al kir mizbeach, and then you push the blood of the body with the head on the wall of mizbeach. Nautilus roish, then you rip the head off. V'hikif beis melikasai lemizbeach, and you put the just the head alone, you squeeze it up against the mizbeach. Then usfake b'melech, you salt it. I guess you go around the mizbeach and you salt it. Uzroke agal b'ishin, then you came straight up and you threw it where you threw the rest of the carbonas on that main fire. Then you come back. So basically, I guess you put down the body of the bird and you just deal with the head, and you throw the head onto the mizbeach. Then, when you finish done with the head, you come back and take care of the body. Ba'alai laguf, you get back to the body of the bird. The hay says amura, you take off the crop, the sanoitza, and some feathers. So it's not just some feathers along with the crop. Ves b'nei ha'ma'ayim, and some of the intestines, hayotzim ima, v'shlichim lebeis hadashin, that you throw away into a place called Beis Hadashin, which was on the side of the ramp. You just throw it down there. So then shisa, we saw what that means. That's that back. You pull it back. You see that picture? You just make a hole in the back and you just separate it. V'loy hivdal, but you didn't separate it totally. V'im hivdal, if you did separate it, kosher, it's kosher, but you try not to. Okay, Saifke the bamelech, you salt the body with salt, uzroka gal be'ishin, and then you throw it on the fire. Lo yehesis amura v'lo yenoitza v'lo yespnei mayin hayotzi imam, v'lo safka b'melech. So if you didn't do any of this, right, the animal is the bird is kosher. You did a yoitza. Kol shashina ma'acha shemitzas dama ksheret. The main thing is to push the bird against the wall of the mizbeach and have some blood dripping out, right? That's what you want to do. This is the main service. The main service is what this kohen is doing over here. He's just pushing it up. Anything that you forget to do afterwards doesn't passel the bird. Now, says the Mishnah, hivdil b'chatas v'lo hivdil ba'oila. Let's say you sever the head of the chatas, it means you cut two samanim of the chatas, but you didn't cut two samanim of the oila. Puzzle, it's puzzle because it's the opposite. For the oila, you have to cut two samanim. For the chatas, you need to only cut one siman. Mitzas dama roish v'lo mitzas dama guf. By the oila, if you squeezed only the head part to the mizbeach and not the body part to the mizbeach, psul, it's puzzle. Dama guf, but if you did the body part to the mizbeach, v'lo mitzah dam haroish, but you didn't squeeze the head onto the mizbeach, so blood could flow out, kishera, it's kosher. Now the Mishnah moves on to a topic very familiar to us from the beginning of the Masechta. We know that any korban that you do shaloi l'shma, let's say I'm shechting an oil and I'm thinking shlamim, so then the korban is kosher, and you can continue makrav what it is. However, the bailam has to bring a new korban. But a chatos, if you make a mistake and do shloi l'shma, if it's a chatos and you're thinking shlamim, the chatos is possible. You have to throw the whole thing out. You can't bring it onto the mizbeach. So same thing over here. Chatas ha'oif shemlaka shloi l'shma. If you did the malika of the chatas ha'oif shloi l'shma, or mitzes dama shloi l'shma, you squeeze the blood on the wall shloi l'shma, or l'shma v'l'shma v'loi l'shma. First you did it right, and then you changed your mind and thought shloi l'shma, or shloi l'shma v'l'shma. Or you did it wrong, and then you corrected yourself. Puzzle, this chatas is puzzle. Because a chatas, anytime there's shloi l'shma in it, it's a puzzle a bird. It's a puzzle a chatas. Oilis oif, if you do an oilis oif, you do the malika shloi l'shma. Let's say you cut the oilis oif, the kohen, and he was thinking it's a chatas. So kshera, it's kosher. Uvalvad shloi also ba'alim l'shem chayva. The ba'alim has to bring a new bird, but the rest of the bird can be brought on the mizbeach. It's not a pasala chatas. Says the Mishnah. Let me make it bigger. Echad chatas. Ha'oif, ve'echad oilus ha'oif. Shemalakam shemitzis daman lekals dover shdarke lekal hakter es dover shdarke lahakter. What's lim koimai? Whether it's a chatas and you did the malika and the mitzah, right? And you thought that you're going to eat the chatas because chatas has the bird you eat. You're going to eat it outside the Beis Hamikdash. Or if it was an oila, you said you had a mind that you're going to throw it on the mizbeach outside the Beis Hamikdash. Pasul ve'imay karis. Then the carbon is pasul, but there is no karis. But chutz lizmanoi, remember chutz lizmanoi. If you think a time difference, in other words, if you think when you're going to eat this, that the chatas, you're going to eat it in 3 weeks from now, so then pigel, you made the carbon pigel, and if someone would eat it, the chayavin olav karis, he would get karis. So there's a big difference in the psul. Some things are puzzle, and if you eat it, okay, you get a lava. But some things that you can make it into a pigel, and if someone would eat it, he'd chayiv the death penalty. But only if the psul is chutz lizmanai. The rest of the carbon has to be done properly. The rest of what's the case where the mater of the carbon is done properly? So again, malak b'shtika, you didn't have any bad thought when you did the maliko. Umitza dam chutz lizmanai, but you thought of squeezing the blood in 2 days from now. Oisha malak chutz lizmanai, you did the malika chutz lizmanai, mitzas dam b'shtika, and you did the blood b'shtika. Oisha malak umitzas dam chutz lizmani. So then you did the malika and the mitzah chutz lizmanai, so you made it straight up pigel. Zeho shekar v'mata kimitzvasei, and it's a pigel carbon. Ketzad loy karvamate kimitzvasai. When did, if you did it incorrectly, and the rest of the carbon was not done correctly, first you did the malika chutz l'mekaymai, umitzah dama chutz l'zmanai. So you did the mitzah chutz l'zmanai, although you did it chutz l'zmanai, but you had a malika chutz l'mekaymai. So it's a mixture. Oishamala chutz l'zmanai, mitzah dama chutz l'mekaymai. Oishamala mitzah dama chutz l'mekaymai. All these things, it's not pigel, it's posel. We go to Amid Aleph. Then all these things are puzzle but not pigel. Chata soif shloka shloi lishma umitzas dam chutz lizmanai. Oy shemala chutz lizmanai umitzas dam shloi lishma. Oy shemala umitzas dam shloi lishma. Anytime there's another psul besides chutz lizmani mixed in there, zehu shloi karva mata kimitzvasai, and therefore it is not pigel. It is only a pasala carbon. Now the Mishnah says, let's say I have in mind when I'm doing the malika, lechal kazayas b'chutz, kazayas l'machar. I'm going to eat one kazayas outside the base of Migdash and one kazayas tomorrow, the next day. So it's chutz l'mkaimei, chutz l'zmanei. Kazayas l'machar, kazayas b'chutz. So that's puzzle already. We saw that. But we're going to see Rabbi Yehuda argues on that. And he says that if your first thought is kazayas, a kazayas l'machar, so a chutz l'zmanei first, then you cannot be uprooted by chutz l'mekaymei. We'll see that in a moment. But says the Mishnah, if you have a half a zayis outside chatz zayis l'machar, chatz zayis l'machar, chatz zayis b'chutz. So here, although it's a half a zayis, so really it shouldn't be possible at all because it's a half a zayis of chutz, a half a zayis of chutz l'mekaymei and chutz l'zmanei. But then it's starif and they become puzzle. Of course, it's not pigel. Vein by chorus. Rabbi Yehuda, I disagree in the first case. If your pigel thought was first, then pigel, it remains pigel, and you can't uproot that thought. And you chayiv if you thought about eating it in the wrong place, if that came first, so then it's possible vein by kares. Then it's possible in kares, and is that possible in kares. Now, let's go by an animal. The Mishnah just throws this in. It really applies only by an animal. Let's say by a carbon. You're shechting a carbon, lecha kazayas, to eat a half a zayas chutz l'zmanai, ulahaktech chatz zayas, and to mimakter half a zayas chutz l'zmanai, kosher. That's kosher. Shein achila v'aktara mitzdarfim, because you can't combine achila and haktara to make a pigel. It has to be one zayas that you thought chutz l'zmanai, that you're going to eat it chutz l'zmanai, or you're going to mimakter on a zbeach chutz l'zmanai, but it has to be entire zayas. Okay, so let us bring up the illustration pictures over here. Now let's go down a little bit and let's discuss where's the source of this thing. So remember in the Chumash it says by an oila sa'oif v'min oila min oif oila karbanoi l'Hashem v'hikriv min atorim amin b'nei yoina as karbanoi, right? If you're trying to bring a bird, then you should use pigeons or doves, young doves. The Torah tells you bring the bird to the mizbeach and you lop its head off. First, you bring it onto the mizbeach and then squeeze the blood, which is a little strange. Then the Torah tells you take off the crop, throw it away, and then you divide it, v'hikteroisa, and you do another haktar. So this is haktar 1 and haktar number 2. So we learned, that's why if you learn Chumash, you learned that there's two things by an oilus oif. First, you makter the head, and then you go back and you makter on the mizbeach the body. So let's read the Gemara. Tan Rabbanim, v'hikrivoi, you should makter it. Ma tamad loima, because we already have. The previous pasuk said v'hikriv, right? V'hikriv. The first pasuk says v'hikriv min haTorah b'nei yoina, and then it repeats v'hikrivoi. So the Torah says ma tamad because yochel, I would think ma tamad like Fishnam, a pasuk says v'hikriv min haTorah b'nei yoina. Yochel hamis nadev. If you're making a donation for birds, you have to have two birds. That you can make a donation, afilu preda achas. Even one bird could be a good donation. Yavi elamazbeach. Ma tamad loima hakoyin. Why does it say the word hakoyin? Likboya loy koyin, that it's only done by a koyin. Because malika, unlike shchita, which is kosher for any party, any Jew could make shchita on an animal. For a malika, it has to be done by kohen. Yochel, I would have thought, isn't it obvious? Ma ben soin shekavalite sofin like kavalite kohen, oif like kavalite sofin, ain't it shlik beloy kohen. By an animal, you have to do it in the north, so the Torah is more stricter by an animal, and yet any person could shecht. So by a bird, by a bird, especially a chatas oif, or even an oilus oif, it's not really in the north of the mizbeach. So I would think that it doesn't have to be done by a kohen. Talmud loima ela kohen, likboya loy kohen. Only a kohen could do the malika. That's why the kahanim grew their nails long. Yochayim lemeken basakin. Maybe you do malika is with a knife. V'dinu im shchita shlekavaloi kohen kavaloi kli malika shekavaloi kohen. Ein edin shikbaloi kli. So Talmud loima kohen amalek. Since shchita, if it even doesn't have to be done by a kohen, the Torah says use a knife. So melika, which has to be done by a kohen, maybe the Torah is strict and it has to be used. You have to use some sort of instrument. Talmud loime kohen umalak. The kohen does the melika. The word kohen appears next to the word umalak. Let's see. It's almost near. V'yikriv kohen el mizbeach umalak. So we darshan that the kohen does the melika by his body. So Amar Rabbi Kiva just says the chisal al daitish shazal karvel mizbeach. I don't need a pasuk to teach me that Yisrael is not allowed to do the malika. It's simple, Yisrael is not allowed to do the malika because you're telling me the whole malika has to be done on the mizbeach. If the whole malika has to be done on the mizbeach, so then of course it could only be done by a kohen, not by Yisrael. The whole point of writing the word kohen there is that the malika has to be done not just by a kohen, but by his body. Now the Brisa says, Yochel yimlekena beimel malam beim mata. I would think that by oilus oif, you could do the malika anywhere, right? You could do it the malika even on the bottom of the mizbeach. Tamad loima umalak v'hikter. Mahaktar b'roisha mizbeach, amalik the b'roisha mizbeach. That just like the maktering has to be the throwing, the burning of the bird was on the top of the mizbeach, so also the malika had to be done on the top of the mizbeach. You can't do the malika on the bottom of the mizbeach. Umalak, what is umalak? Mimul oirif. It has to be on the back of the neck. Atoy mimul oirif. Maybe it's in the front of the neck. So the Gemara says v'dinhu. There's a reason for it. So we have another pasuk by Chatas Oif where the Torah tells you umolak es roishay mimul arpai. Do it on the back of the neck. So we have a gzera shava umolak es roishay from a Chatas Oif to an oilus Oif that they're both done on the back of the neck. Says the Gemara, if you're going to have this gzera shava imal lahalan. Maybe by a chatas oif, you only do one siman. So I would think by an oilus oif, you also do one siman. Talmud loimel molak v'hikter. Mahak Torah harosh latzmai v'guf latzmai. Just like we're going to learn that by you throwing it on the mizbeach, you throw the head first and the body second. You have to do two actions. Af malika. So when you do the malika, harosh la'atzmei v'guf la'atzmei, you have to sort of separate the head from the rest of the body. And the only way to do that is to have a malika that cuts both the windpipe and the food pipe. And now, how do I know that the head was thrown on the mizbeach and then the body of the bird was thrown on the mizbeach? Shenema v'hikter oisai. It says the word, as we've seen it by the oilas oif, twice the word v'hikter. V'hikter hamizbeach, molakas roisha v'hikter mizbecha. And then it says, so this vehikter, the first one, it's for the head. The second one is for the body. So now you know it's the, and therefore if the Torah was makbid that the haktorah should be in two separate ways, two separate parts. So also when you do the malika, by the oilus oif, you did both. You cut both simonim. V'nimtza dama, you have to squeeze the blood. Kulei el kir hamizbeach, along the wall of the mizbeach. V'lo el kir keves, not on the ramp. V'lo el kir hechel. Ve'ezeh zakir eliyah, you have to do it on the upper 6 amas of the mizbeach. Maybe you should do it on the bottom part of the mizbeach, right? Maybe I can do it on the bottom part of the mizbeach, which is below the red line. This is the red line over here, right? Talmud Loima, the pasuk says, that animal, the chatas is above, but the oila you do on the bottom. You sprinkle shtaim sheinarb on the bottom of the mizbeach. So by a bird, the oilas and oif should also be on the bottom of the mizbeach. Talmud loima molak v'hikte b'nimtza damei. The Torah tells you, look at this, knock the head off, and then throw it on the mizbeach, and then squeeze the blood. If you burned the bird, then you're going to squeeze the blood. Well, the Torah seems to say something totally out of order. It's teaching you. So just like the Torah has to be done on the top of the mizbeach, so also the squeezing of the head should be done on the top of the mizbeach. Like we learned in the Mishnah. So you made a right turn. That's where you did it, as you can see in the picture. You went up, and the mizbeach, he made a right turn and went to that spot to do it. Here the Gemara is saying that if you did it like over here on the Amma, if you did the squeezing where it's Y, you see it's Y over here, if you took the bird and squeezed on that, but it's still above the red line, it's good enough. You can't do it. It has to be on that wall, and you can't do it below the soivev. My benayu, what's the reason? What's the machlokes all about? The question is, can I do the mitzvah right over here, below where the feet of the kohen is standing, but it's above the red line? Tanakama says yes, because technically I can make the fire on this little walkway. So then below that I can do the mitzvah. But the Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov holds, no, you're never allowed to make a fire on this area. There's no maracha, even though it's part of the mizbeach. Maracha could only be here. So if you did the mitzvah down over here, below the soivev, then it's too far, it's too removed from where the fire is, and that's why it won't be a kosher mitzvah. Balay leguf v'hesid tarnabonam. V'hesis murasik b'naitzasa zuzafik. So according to the Tanakama, all you do is take the crop. Yochel yakte b'sachem yitlena. I would think that you scoop it out with a knife and take everything. Talmud loima b'naitzasa noitel es hanoitza ima. All you do is take some feathers with it. So I guess it's not just the zefek, but you take some feathers along with the zefek. Abba Yosef ben Chanama noitle v'noite kurbana. B'naitzasa means you don't take any feathers. It means you take the gizzard. So it's the gizzard and the crop. The Bei Reb Shmuel Tana b'naitzasa b'naitzasa koidim sakak min aruba. It seems that Bei Reb Shmuel says you only take the feathers, and you just make a feather and just take the skin and the feathers. But I guess as the pictures all show that they're taking out everything. The Mishnah said you take out even the b'nei me'ayin, even the stomach. Okay, we go to Amid Beis. Shisa v'lo yavdil. When we do shisa, as we saw over here, it has to be done with your hands. You can't use an instrument to do it. You see, I guess he has two nails doing the back of splitting the back. As you see, a pasuk shisa is only with your hands, because in Shoftim it says that he did it without using an instrument, a weapon. Says the Gemara. We're gonna stop in 2 minutes. Our Mishnah doesn't go like Rabbi Shimon, because we're saying in the Mishnah that you could only shecht. When you do malika by a chatas, you do one simon, and by an oila you do two simons. But here, Rabbi Shimon, I heard shemavdilim mechatas oif. You could shech two simonim by a chatas oif. I'm shechting, but you could do the malika with a chatas oif with two simonim. So my benayu. So then why is the Tanakama disagreeing with Reb Shimon? And here we're going to just do two terutzim. The main answers are that the oilas oif has to be very different than the chatas oif. And if you're going to make the chatas oif look like an oilas oif, even though one is brought on the bottom of his back, one is brought on top of his back, but since they look so much alike, so then that's not good. The oila has to look different than the chatas. So therefore, Amar Chizda mitzi chatas oif makav yikabenayim. Tanakama sov mitzi chatas oif makav. Tanakama holds you have to squeeze by a chatas oif the bird against the wall. So both of them have that din squeezing the bird against the wall. The kivin the mitzi dam covered ma'aser oila chatas. So if everything is the same, then there's no difference between an oila and a chatas. Therefore, the Tanakama holds by a chatas you have to shecht one simon, and an oila you have to shecht two simonim. He holds that technically by a chatas oif you don't have to do mitzui. So therefore, there's already a difference between a chatas oif and an oilas oif, because you don't have to squeeze it against if you don't squeeze it against the wall, it doesn't pass all the chatas. So therefore, he said, then you could, then even if they look the same, that because you're cutting two simonim by a chatas oif, it's, even though the Torah says don't do it, but it's kosher, because you could always say that you're just cutting extra meat from it. You're not puzzling the bird. That's the way Rav Chizda answered. And finally, Rava says, Shia b'simin sheni ba'oyus oif ma'akav ika b'nayhu. Can I delay? Ba'oyus oif, you have to cut two simonim. What happens if I delay a little bit before I cut the second simon? Hanakama saw Shia b'simin sheni ba'oyus oif loy ma'akav. It doesn't. V'afa gav the sheik ka'ovid ma'isa oila b'chatas. So therefore, if there's no din she'iyah, so technically you're making the oila again, you're making the chatas look like an oila by cutting both simonim. So what's the difference between the two? So therefore the Tanakama says, make sure that you don't cut the chatas, the second simon, only cut one simon, because if you're going to cut another simon, you passel the carbon. Rab Lazar says, Rab Shimon, that even if you cut by chatas two simonim, it's still kosher, because sava ma'akev. So he holds that when you cut the oilas oif, you have to cut two simons one after another, like no delay. So if you're going to delay cutting one simon from the chatas, when you do the chatas, you cut one simon, take a little break, and then you do the next simon, that wouldn't be kosher by an oila. And we're saying it's good by a chatas because you're just cutting extra meat, so it'll still be good. Okay. You will stop right over here.
Baruch, thank you.
Thank you.
Have
a good evening.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Good to know, everybody.
Good enough. Good enough.